Alrighty, you guys, we are out here today, and I showed you guys that video of me catching, or not catching, but killed that 6-point buck, and got that one this morning. So I am officially 100% tagged out. First time I've ever actually been completely tagged out on a deer hunting. Usually I'll have one leftover tag I'm trying to fill at the end of the year. This year I don't have to worry about it. That buck came in 20 yards and I heart punched him, so it's over. Now I can focus on making fishing videos and going out and trying to kill me some coyotes too. So today, as you guys can see, it's not our traditional baits, Texas rigs, or anything like that. Today we're going to be talking about what they call the donkey rig. I just call it the double soft plastic jerkbait or double fluke rig, whatever. My baits of choice for this rig are the Docs Lure Company Drop Shot minnows. This here's crystal shad with blue and silver flake. Both of them are rigged up with that. The hooks, I have a 6/0 owner swim bait hook with a little eagle claw barrel swivel, 10-pound test, Berkley Trilene monofilament, back to a 3/0 with a little 1/8 ounce weight, little 3/0 swim bait hook there. So that's our rig for today. Got this set up. Shakespeare Excursion rod with Cast King Speed Demon reel, 10-pound test Berkley Trilene line, or actually this is 12-pound test Berkley Trilene line. I made a video a while back with this rig, and I was fishing it on a spinning rod is what I used to fish it on, but I've gotten it kind of set up to where I can throw it on a bait caster with this setup here, you know, having the little bit lighter hook but a little bit of a weight on the back of that lighter hook will help me cast it a little bit easier, help it sink a little bit faster as well. In my opinion, the double fluke rig, double soft plastic jerkbait rig, whatever, I just call it the double fluke rig. They're not flukes that I throw on them. I don't use flukes. I use Docs Lure Company Drop Shot minnows, DS minnows as I call them. In my opinion, it's one bait that is slowly becoming more and more popular, but it's not becoming as popular as, say, a whopper plopper or a stick bait, you know, Senko style bait. It's not becoming as popular as fast, but it is becoming more and more popular slowly over time. You see a lot of rigs come out over the past few years, like the Ned rig. The Ned rig got really popular really quick. The whopper plopper, you know, the Senko stick bait become really popular really quick, and people just use them all the time now. But double fluke rig is something that I don't see a whole lot of people throwing, but it's definitely something that if I find fish that are schooling, or if I think they're schooling and they're just not busting the surface, I'll definitely throw this out. If you guys go way back in my channel, back when I did used to use other companies' baits, I made a video where I was fishing this bait and caught quite a few good fish. Basically all I did in that video was kind of match the forage a little bit better. I also used some local intel, which the local intel was just my cousins. They told me that they had been using white baits for a long time, and they had been catching fish. You know, they caught somewhere between like 2 dozen fish, I think they said, or something like that, just in that week with white baits. So I thought maybe if I use something a little bit different, actually it's a lot like this bait here. It's got a little bit of blue in it. It's more of a natural, but it's got a little bit of blue in it. I figured something like that would work a little bit better than the white, considering the fish have been seeing white for a good little while up to that point. And they'd been seeing their brothers and sisters getting hooked in the face by a bunch of white baits. So I figured they'd probably be a little bit wary still of the white baits. I ended up catching quite a few fish on the double fluke rig. Another thing that I used in that video and in that day that kind of helped me a little bit was knowing for a fact that there was fish moving, because I could see them. I could just barely see the fish moving. They weren't really busting the surface like crazy, because it was decently cold that day. Actually, it wasn't super warm. I think I was actually wearing the same jacket I'm wearing now that day. I don't really remember though. I'd have to go back and look. But as you guys know, the soft plastic jerk bait is a very popular bait. A lot of people like throwing them. I have not done an in-depth episode on it, I don't believe. If I have, then I guess this series will be part 2. But best ways that I fished it, I caught quite a few good fish on it. One of the first, 3.5 pound fish of the year came on it. Basically how I was throwing it was just finding spots where it was 2.5, 3 foot deep, but there was grass. If I knew there was grass just under the surface a little ways, it seemed like I could catch them, because I think what them bass were doing were they were pushing the shad up onto the grass, like, because here's the edge of the grass right here where my knuckle is right there. That's the edge of the grass, and everything past the back of my hand is just open water, and then everything towards my fingertips would be the bank. And I think that the grass was just a little ways under the surface, maybe like 8 or 9 inches, and they were pushing those shad up into that grass, and that grass was so thick, because it was pretty thick grass, that they couldn't go into the grass, so they had to go over it. Like, here, let me set this down for a second, I'll show you. Instead of going into the grass, they had to go over it, and they were getting caught up in here. They were getting trapped by them bass, and them bass were just gorging themselves on them. And that's pretty much what I was imitating. I was imitating 2 wounded, dying shad, just kind of flickering their last little bits of life, and casting over top of that grass, and it seemed like it would work. And I mean, I caught, I think, 3 or 4 fish in that video, plus I caught a couple more off camera. But in my opinion, I think that the double fluke rig, the donkey rig, whatever you want to call it, those are both the names that I've heard for it. Some people like them both weightless hooks. In that video, I was using both weightless hooks. This one here, since I'm throwing it with a bait caster, I went with a little bit heavier back hook, just to help with the casting, and also, drop, the sinking rate. Something else that I'd say you could probably do pretty easy, especially if you're in saltwater. If you're a saltwater fisherman and you fish a lot of flats and stuff, you can take the same stuff that I'm talking about here in this video for bass fishing and use it for like redfish and trout. I've seen people use double jig head rigs for redfish and trout and just kind of pop it up off the bottom, just kind of like I'm doing here with these soft plastic jerk baits. Merry Christmas to everybody also that's watching this video. Hope y'all have a great Christmas. There will be videos coming out on Christmas. I know a lot of YouTubers probably won't be posting much on Christmas, but I will be. Bring it over that limb, make sure I don't get snagged in it. But most of the time, something else that I've found out over the time that I've spent fishing this rig, and I've talked about it in that video that I made talking about the bait and the rig and all that, it seems like that most of the fish would either hit the front one, or they'd hit one of them and then bite the back one again. Sometimes they could have been coming back for the back one, I don't really know. But I did notice a very, very large pattern in them, in me feeling a bite once, and then the next time I twitch it, I would feel them grab it right then, and I'd set the hook and catch them. And almost, actually, I think all of them, I need to set my settings just a little bit higher, I guess. Actually, I believe every single fish that I've caught on this rig was on the trailer one, the one in the back. So that kind of, you know, made me do like a theory type of idea, because in my opinion, when I would get bit the first time, I would think that this is the back one, and then I'd set the hook, and because they came back and grabbed it. But in my opinion, since there's two baits, I think that they come up and they try to kill the first one, and then they see the second one thinking it might be the first one, and they hit it. Now this is more of a warm water technique. This is also more of a clear water technique, and I'm using it in cold muddy water, which like has 4 inches of visibility right now. But I'm not really out here to catch fish. I'm just out here to teach you guys how I've caught fish with this rig, and how I've done with this rig, how I fish it. So, in my opinion, one of my favorite ways of fishing it is you just kind of let it sink down a little ways. And this works a lot more like the way we were fishing there. We were fishing warm water, but it was cold air temperature. It was probably mid 40s to lower 50s maybe water temperature. I don't really remember exactly when it was. I think it was somewhere in March maybe that I made that video. It might have been in April, I don't really know. I'll have to go back and look. But something else that I noticed in that video was that even though the fish were coming up and hitting the back one and getting it, I would always feel like there was either a piece of grass or a bite before I'd actually catch a fish, before I'd actually feel another bite. Because every single time when I would be twitching along, because I was pretty much just going like this right here, just like that right there. It was pretty erratic way of fishing. But every single time I did that, when I would bring it through there, it was almost every cast I'd get a bite. I need to fix my settings. This is why I don't really throw the double rigs on bait casting gear, because it catches so much wind. I usually throw them on a spinning rod instead of a bait caster. I also think that the ice that's forming on my reel probably doesn't help either. But I would always feel a small tick, and then I would twitch it again, and I would have them hooked, and I'd set the hook, and they'd be on that back one almost every single time. I can't even say almost every time, because it was every time. I'm gonna have this thing so out of whack when I go back to fish like a spinnerbait or something with it. I don't know. But anyway, we're almost 15 minutes into this video, getting close to that mark. So, in my opinion, the best scenarios to fish this is obviously schooling fish, especially if they're schooling on, you know, big shad or little shad. You can kind of do it either way, but mainly when they're schooling on shad. You could probably get away with it when you're fishing for bluegill spawning fish. You know, when you're throwing around bluegill beds, you could definitely probably get away with it with like a green pumpkin soft plastic jerkbait. I'm definitely going to try it with the Doc's Lure Company Little Gill or the Bull Gill, just because I think that'd be a really fun thing to try as a double fluke rig with those bull gills on it. That'd be an interesting rig for sure. Also, this spring I am definitely looking forward to doing some more bed fishing, a little bit more anyway. I'm also going to be doing a lot more heavy flipping in some heavy grass, and I'm also going to try to do some more kayak fishing, since I'll have my kayak for the full year most likely, unless I break it. I'm looking forward to getting into my kayak, and you guys have seen this lake before where I've caught some pretty decent fish with my cousins before. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting my kayak in that pond and reaching out there in the deepest part of it, and hopefully going to catch some pretty good fish. There's some fish in there, I'm sure, that will break my personal best. And I know for a fact there's like 3 or 4 different species of fish that we know of that I have not caught, and then there's a couple different species of fish that we don't know what they are. So I don't know what they could be, but we know there's some toothy critters in there, and I want to catch them. Don't know what it is. I know it's big, and I want to catch it. Pretty simple. So this upcoming year, I'm pretty excited for it. This year, deer season got off to a pretty slow start, but I am officially tagged out now. If you have made it to this far in the video, I do thank you for watching. I probably will be doing some coyote hunting here pretty soon. Also doing a lot of these videos like this, so stay tuned. If you have any suggestions for later episodes of In Depth, let me know down in the comments, and I will most likely end up doing them, because 2 of the videos that I was going to do did not end up turning out because the water got really muddy, and there's pretty much no point in fishing them because of the water being muddy. So yeah, thank you guys for watching once again though. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye.